pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Barr.
Here.
Giovanni.
Here.
Eckhoff. Callis. Lee. Here. Hicks. Here. Bradshaw. Here. Myers. Gaber. Here. Willie.
Here. Thank you. Moving on, we have the consent agenda with 3 items. If we've had an opportunity to look that over.
I have a question on item C.
Okay.
On one place the application says they're going to use one lane, and on the third page it says they're going to use the entire road. To me that's confusing. I don't know what they're trying to say, or if they've done something wrong. And she's out here to explain
I don't
this.
know what they mean either, but it's a walking parade, right?
Yes.
So I assume that maybe they're gonna walk or a single file, but they want the whole roadway to be closed for safety maybe. I don't know. I'm not them, but we normally for a parade would close the entire roadway, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I will, because I'm so confused, I would go no on that.
Any other questions?
There is at the time table if it is a concern, and get that clarified and bring that back to the meeting.
I was going to say, we've got some time to do it, so yes. Yeah. So,
You need a motion to table.
We should have a motion to take item C for consent.
yeah. So move. Second. Motion by Frank, seconded by John Willie. Table item C. Roll call, please.
Barr.
Yes.
Giovanni.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Bradshaw. Yes. Gaber.
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Do we have a motion on the other 2 consent items?
Move passage of items A and B.
Motion by Brian, second by John Willie. Roll call, please.
Giovanni.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Bradshaw. Yes. Gaber.
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Barr.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on, we have time now for the public hearing portion on our 2022-2023 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make this speech at the beginning of the budget public hearing every year to remind people that the city of Pontiac is a political subdivision of the state of Illinois. The legislature gives us our authorities, gives us latitude, but pretty narrow in terms of how we can raise our money, how we spend our money. And as such, we have what's called fund accounting in separate pockets, if you will, of money based upon where the money comes from and then how it is spent. The city of Pontiac has about 35 funds, and across those 35 funds, we're projecting to spend this year a little over $31 million. This public hearing is a part of the statutory responsibility of the city for this budget. Public notice in the paper published March 4th, 2022. Since that time, and also the budget has been on display at City Hall. Purpose for tonight's hearing is to provide an opportunity for public comment on the proposed budget. Anticipated expenditures are a little over $31 million. We'd like to show this graph as kind of a depiction of municipality. All cities have basic infrastructure, sewer, streets. The necessary things for us. The next layer of anticipated service is public safety. Then as we get to the top, we start getting pretty unique with different communities having different facilities. And then lastly, the community and economic development portion is the top of the pyramid. What's really intriguing is when you think about it, the top area is how you can grow your community, grow the resources that funds the bottom of that pyramid. And sometimes when and I know that we've done this on occasion, as of all cities, that when it comes time to pare back in lean times, it's at the top, but it then cuts off the funds for the bottom portion. So with this budget, we're able to fund the pyramid this year, and so we'll jump into the infrastructure portion of it. Of course, the thing that's been at the forefront for the last few years of the whole infrastructure has been the sewer plant, the sewer collection system. You'll see that this is where the money comes from the sewer for the sewer plant. That 87% of the revenues generated come from the sewer bill, from the sewer bill that goes to all business, residential, industrial. 12% is special waste. We have a special arrangement with the Livingston County landfill. They, by law, are required to catch what's called the leachate, the water that's filtered through the landfill. It's collected and brought to the sewage treatment plant by truck, and then we treat it along with the other waste of the community. We've been in negotiations with them. Back in the late 80s, we ran a sewer line out Route 23 so that they could bring that leachate to the plant through that line, and we're now getting close to that being reality. And then a 1% other, that's interest and special dumping fees and various things. So that's kind of where the money comes from. And we'll talk about the things now moving forward, issues that we're facing. Of course, the first thing is that this has been a 3-year project, and the sewage treatment plant expansion, close to $40 million will have been spent during that 3-year period. And now with the conclusion and the plant going online, we're going to start paying the bill for that. We will be making half of the payment this year. The payments are based on 2 payments a year, and those will start in March of 2023. The first payment will be $852,000, and then thereafter, annually for 20 years, we'll have a debt service payment of $1.7 million. So that is going to take a big chunk of the revenues that are generated. In addition to that, there's another $460,000 that are EPA loans that have been outstanding on top of that. So our debt service is going to be right around $2.1 million. Interesting phenomenon. Previously, the prison was responsible for about half of the revenue generated through sewer billing. But through the some improvements they made to the plumbing system, with the decline in prison population, that portion is declining every year. And now with the anticipated loss of 300 to 400 prisoners, that's going to have another impact, which is going to necessitate us inching rates up a little bit to compensate for that so that we're able to cover our debt service. The other thing that's been happening in addition to just the sewage treatment plant expansion is the whole collection system improvements. That historically, we've had a great deal of infiltration into our system. We've about 2 million gallons a day Jake?
Oh, infiltration or?
No, just regular,
Right around 2.5. right?
2.5 million. And when we get a rain event, if it's substantial enough, that can get up to 10 million gallons per day. And so we've been doing a lot of things. We've been rebuilding manholes, we've been doing sewer lining. Part of our stormwater system is what's called combined sewers, where it's sanitary sewer and storm sewer, and so we've been separating those. This year, we're going to be doing a substantial sewer lining project. You'll be considering that later this evening. We'll also be doing the first phase of the north side sewer separation. And then in subsequent 2 years, we'll do the second phase and then 2 phases on the south side. So that's kind of where we've really been focused, both on the plant and the collection system. In terms of expansion of sewer lines, we're also looking at going west to open up some new area for development. So that's kind of what's happening on the infrastructure side of the sewage treatment plant and the collection system. You know, when we talk about infrastructure needs, the problems of the sewer plant or collection system are underground. Street improvements are very, very necessary. Right now, here's our dedicated sources of revenues for street improvements. Motor fuel tax funds were right at about $285,000, which is where we were 20 years ago. That has not grown at all. Recently, the state has added transportation fuel funds of $185,000. And we get an allotment of $200,000 of federal funds that are put into account with the Department of Transportation, and then we can save those up for major projects. Let's go ahead and hit the next one. FAU project is in Indiana, and this year we're going to be completing that. That is about over $1.2 million, or a 6-year allotment of the FAU funds. We have to pay 20% of that, so our share is going to be around $260,000. Let's go ahead. The other projects that we've got programmed out for the year is some hot mix asphalt overlays. The first one is basically grinding up that asphalt. You see the deterioration, grind it up, and then add new asphalt. So Countryside Estates, we've got Franklin Way, Lawrence Way, again, you'll see the Alligator, Bethany Lane, and then also we're looking at redoing Deerfield Road South. That with all the construction that's been down there, it's been many years since that's been down. That's in need of repairs, and we're going to be doing the grinding and hot mix asphalt on that one as well. In addition to that, we've got on the interior part of the town, the Reynolds Street division to Oak. We're also targeting some areas, again, the gutter line next to the curb and gutter this is pretty common across town, that's where the trucks run, the garbage trucks, and we've got deterioration, so we're going to cut out that area and do the replacement of that line at West Madison, South Walnut, and then we're also going to be rebuilding a couple of streets. This is Prairie Street between Elm and Morrow. If you remember, several years back, we took the stretch of Livingston Street from Elm to Morrow, rebuilt that curb and gutter, and that's what's going to happen here. Curb and gutter, new asphalt, and all the streets then adjacent to the junior high will be complete. Then the next one is North Street, same situation, putting in curb, gutter, and new asphalt. Then we've got some commercial alleys that get lots and lots of traffic. One right behind us, or across the street here. Then the next one is up there on, right off of Howard Street, right east of Division, and then the alley on Washington near Water. Then the last component is the multiple sidewalks and ADA ramps. You'll see on the next slide in the Reynolds Street area, we've got sidewalks that are needing replacement, plus the ADA ramps are either inadequate or non-existent. So we're going to be targeting a lot of the ADA ramps that are not in compliance with areas that we've already done work in that area. So there's that. Then there's the study that we, Farnsworth Group did, and the council approved it back in January. While the first stretch to be done is that area of Madison Street from, not quite yet, from on Madison Street between Mill and Main. We're waiting for word on the grant on that one. We are going to take some areas on the perimeter of this study area and start doing improvements that will make a difference and that will be compatible with this plan. So the first areas that we're looking at are Madison and Plum and Oak. You'll see here that we've had problems with these intersections with visibility. The 80 ramps are not in compliance. So we're looking at, this last year we did a study of trying to narrow up, go ahead and hit the next slide, narrow up the pavement into the one lane, and that was very successful. And so what we're going to be having the engineers work on is the design of a more permanent answer at those two intersections. And again, doing it in such a way that is compatible with the plan that's going to be to the east. The other thing we're going to be doing is, let's come back, go to the next one, let's come back to that. Nope, back up. We're also going to be doing some amenity development, benches, flower areas that will be compatible with the overall plan. So again, some of those are going to be in the outside areas that weren't necessarily addressed by the plan, but they will be compatible with that, as well as with some ADA ramps and other things. Okay, with that, let's go to the next slide. Again, the needs for street are great, and you saw that, not even $500,000 a year. Now, I will say this, that with city funds, we're going to be approaching $1.7 million this year. Part of that is some savings that we've incurred over the years on motor fuel tax. Tax increment financing is doing a big chunk of those improvements. But for us to really get ahead of this, and we're never going to get ahead of it, that we have over 40 miles of streets, that it's going to take time, but it's also going to take resources. So we've tried the sales tax referendum a couple times. Again, we've chosen the sales tax as the means of funding these street improvements. One, because it's a substantial amount of money. Keeping in mind that the sales tax, additional 1 cent sales tax, is not on drugs, foods, or type of vehicles. So with that, it's exempt. Those items are exempt. It will still generate about $1.6 million a year. So coupled with what we presently get, we could be doing over $2 million of street work per year. Again, we've estimated that over 75% of the sales tax that's generated are from those outside of the community. I think that when you go out and see what's happening on the west side of town, that it's quite visible that non-Pontiac people generate that, which is a better option than any other type of tax, with property, utility, or anything else that we would have the authority to do. So June 28th is coming, and if we want more street works, we've got to look at that. Okay. The next area is general fund, which where the public safety components come. You'll see that the revenues for the general fund, 37% is from 46% is from sales tax. 37% is from state revenue share. There's multiple revenue sources that the state provides us with revenue sharing, the state income tax, the Illinois use tax, the personal property replacement tax, gambling receipts, and so that comprises about 37%. 15% is transfers and other revenues. I think the significant thing here is that less than 3% of the general fund comes from property tax. We're going to see later that the bulk of the property tax is for police fire pensions, municipal retirements, and liability insurance. One thing, the sales tax went up about 25% this year over 2020. And so 2020 was a COVID year, which it was, but it was up 2.5% over 2019. One of the major factors for that was that there was a change in how the state did accounting for sales tax and Illinois use tax for online sales. And so a lot of cities saw a substantial jump. Ours was about 25%. Whether or not we're going to maintain that, we've taken a pretty conservative approach. The other thing is that most of these, the 37% or the state revenue sharing funds are based upon population. And so, of course, we learned that our population declined 7%, while the states maintain the status quo. So we will be down 7% from where we were a year ago, just based on the recalculation of that formula. The other thing is the Department of Revenue preliminary estimates are saying that those things as a group will be down about 10+%. So we've taken those into consideration. So this is about $7.4 million for the general fund revenues. Okay? 60% is on police and fire and EMS subsidy. 29% is streets and park subsidy, and 11% for other. The big change in this, of course, is the addition this past year of the ambulance service. And we're estimating that that ambulance service will have about a $400,000 deficit that will need to be initially absorbed by the general fund. But as we've been working through this the EMS service and learning as we go, we realized that to close that $400,000 deficit is going to have to happen on the revenue side. So we've got 4 goals that we're looking at for EMS. The first one is that we want to expand the service area. That the private company that we previously served by, also provided service to some of the outlying areas. And so we have a lot of fixed costs, and we have capacity within our existing operations to expand the service area and provide that service. And again, we believe that we are providing a quality service and one that would be beneficial to those that are outside of our corporate limits. The second one is to provide prompt response to hospital transfers. And that can be a real important timing for the hospital to have a prompt response, and we think that we can provide that. The third is an increase in our service level to include critical care. That will take some training on some of our paramedics' parts, but again, we just feel that we need to provide the best service that we possibly can. And then the fourth, in order to meet those other goals, constructing and manning a substation west of I-55. That as we look at servicing areas outside of our community, also looking at providing that prompt response to the hospital. And the other thing is providing better response to the west side of the community. Again, with the tracks, with traffic navigating from the station out to the west portion of town, we can really improve our service level by having a substation. We've had discussions with the hospital about this. We're looking at the possibility of working with them in the construction of the facility on their property. And so this will be an area of focus this year, such that we are hopeful that we get on that a year from now. Next is in that top part of the pyramid, community and economic development. In terms of community development, we're going to be continuing those activities and events that we have brought to the table the last couple of years, such as Rocking at the River, the 4th of July event at the Oaks Golf Course. We really have got some great plans for that this year. Maintaining and improving the Recplex, providing the service to the junior baseball, diamond preparation, and supervision out there in the ice rink, the Eagle Theater, transportation subsidies for seniors and low income through the senior citizen taxi program and the show bus subsidies that we provide. Tourism, again, it's back, and we'll be hearing more from that in a couple of weeks. We're also looking at reestablishing Main Street in the downtown area as an aid to small business. And then, of course, the Oaks Golf Course. This past year, we budgeted a $17,000 deficit because of startup costs that we had, and we were right there. Included in that was debt service. So we're treating the municipal golf course as an enterprise fund where the costs are borne by the golfers. And we're also looking at the marketing of that to increase play not only locally but from outside here. Other issues, we talked about pensions. We have substantial unfunded liabilities as do all of the communities in the state. We're working on a TIF extension, 11-year extension, and then we also have the ARPA funds totaling about $1.5 million. We've committed about half of those to the ambulance service to get that up and running. And so there'll be a balance of those funds available. And we have about 4 years to work on that. So we want to make sure that we're strategically using those funds. That wraps up my presentation. And at this point, I think it's rare, if there's no objections, we'll open it up for public comment.
I guess the one concern I had, I noticed a lot of the street repair, looks like that some of them were in subdivisions, things like that.
Yeah, and again, those that are in the subdivision, the countryside states, that's TIF fund. Again, that's in the TIF, and so we want to get those taken care of with the possibility of maybe even rolling those others.
I guess I just look at Mill Street coming from the south side, from Torrance, clear down to Reynolds. It is so bad, I think that needs to be set first. Because that's the main drag for every truck, every gravel truck, everything comes that way from nothing.
We have two blocks of that you're talking about under contract, and we'll be done this spring. 2 blocks, Chris? Yes.
Gutters are falling apart, edges.
If you want to make a list of streets that are falling apart, it'd be endless. Again, this is 1.7 million. We could double that and still not make it.
Mill Street is on the agenda for this spring, though.
2 blocks.
2 blocks.
Just 2 blocks, so
Yeah,
the whole
well,
street,
that's-
the whole thing has to be done clear from
Well,
Torrance to Reynolds down there.
it'll make a big improvement, but it gives us more to do down the road, too.
Does it go from Reynolds down to first or second?
Should go to second.
That's the first part of it.
Is it gonna be curves too, or is it
Yes.
just the surface?
The new curbs, new asphalt.
And that's part of the issue with, that street is, it needs to be widened,
Yes.
and it's the expense that goes into that. That has to be considered too, so it goes into eating up more of our budget versus everything else in town too. So we do know about it, we do, it's on our radar, it's just,
I guess, I know I live on Reynolds Street, past Torrance, that whole street's terrible. There's so many potholes, people are running off into the people's yards, it's falling apart. I mean, it's just not Reynolds, you go down to, Chicago area, the Chicago Street area, that road. When it rains, it's a pond. The Plum, not Plum Street, but I think it's Locust Street on the other side of Plum, that's the same way.
We have a lot of street issues, and that's one of the reasons that we want to get more money into this program. That's one of the reasons we're hoping to get the sales tax, because that money will be directed to streets. So, the more money we have, the more we can do. Any questions from the council?
What does it cost to do a block?
With curb and gutter, again, don't hold me to this. Brian's working on a rule of thumb, but about 130 to 150,000 for a block of curb and gutter and asphalt.
Asphalt?
Right.
Is that taking it down to, is that taking it down to rebuilding it from
Yes.
the bottom up?
An overlay where you grind and just refurbish the asphalt between 40 and 50,000 for a block.
but that doesn't last as long,
Right.
obviously.
So 40 miles, is that kind of where we're at, Chris?
Is that 40 miles for like lane miles, or is that 40 miles?
That's 7 miles, so double that for you.
And if you, that's a mile is 5,280. There's about, say, 300 feet per block. 17 blocks per mile. So it's,
We could spend a lot of money on the streets, and we will be. Not as much as we would like to, but as much as we can, and we will keep expanding more money into that.
most of the street work, in addition to motor fuel tax, has been with TIF. And that's another reason we're wanting to get the extension to TIF is to have that for street work as well as other projects.
I'm glad you're doing South Deerfield. I've seen a lot of cars hit that pothole there. Is it community laws?
Yeah.
How's our ceiling working out on the north side of Deerfield?
Pardon?
How's our ceiling, you know, years ago, we did a ceiling on North Deerfield, does that seem to be helping, or?
Chris?
It's holding up pretty well.
Was that 2 years ago we did that?
Then we sealed the, kind of the Route 66 original alignment, we did that as well, the division.
We did that here for road.
Yeah, and then we seal the south side of Deerfield, they do that?
As a general rule of thumb, it's to wait about 2 to 3 years after we put it out, but they've asphalt out. So that's something we can include.
As I recall, it's quite a bit cheaper than the deal.
Correct, yeah, it's wearing very well from what I've seen with it. I think it's a pretty good program to include every year.
All right. Let's move on to propose the public hearing and go to the regular agenda and hear from Jake.
Kind of feedback up from the beginning of Bob's budget presentation, we in that period. Infrastructure being the bottom and the biggest piece. We've been talking the last 2 years and undergoing a lot of projects, rehabilitating a lot of infrastructure to reflect on what we see in treatment land as far as flow and reliability and optimization of that collection system to reduce flow and to protect the homeowners and reduce freezing backups. So one of the components of those improvements is a newer technology of sewer lining. We've lined approximately just shy of 50,000 feet of sewer pipe already over the last 20 years. Our first project, I believe we did, I was in high school weeding and mowing at the treatment plant, getting ready to start my senior year. It was a newer technology then, and it has evolved very quickly into a preferred method of sewer pipe rehabilitation. Not just limited to Illinois, but to the country and to the world. This is, you're seeing much more sewer lining or pipe replacement due to its nature of being non-invasive. You don't have to dig, it can all be done above ground. And what it consists of is more or less lining a pipe, creating a new pipe within an existing pipe. Fiberglass polyresins that contractors are using for this lining hold up 100 years plus, as opposed to a lot of the clay pipe that is in the ground. It's been in the ground for 100 years that has been dilapidated for more than half its life. So one of the components of everything we've done is tackling a little bit of sewer lining here and there and chipping away at those really dilapidated areas. When you have worn out, crumbling sewer pipes, you get a tree root invasion into the pipe, which will damage it even more. And when tree roots will get in there, it'll spread those joints and that'll open it up to more groundwater infiltration into those lines. So it's just a snowballing effect. Once those old pipes are getting cracked, freeze thaw the ground, they shift, their joints are no longer aligned straight, and so on and so forth. So we've been chipping away at this, and we wanted to look at this summer as being a summer to really do a big chunk of that sewer line. So over the last about 2 years, my staff and I have evaluated the entire town's collection system, and we looked at what areas were the worst, what areas do we see the most tree roots, what areas do we see the most infiltration from those tree roots. And we've put together a list and an area of those worst sewers that need to be addressed sooner than later. A couple of those lines we've actually had to dig up in spot repairs because they failed in locations while we're conducting the study. So we talked about this year, go ahead and knocking out a substantial portion of those elected sewer pipes and undergoing rehabilitation. So I went ahead and once we got all that data, we went out for bid and talked with some contractors. And because of the COVID and a lot of grant money coming down the pipeline, there's a lot of communities that are looking to do the same thing we're doing and to work on the infrastructure. So contractors are getting busier and busier by the day. Projects are getting lined up, so we wanted to try to get in on that action and not have to wait 2 to 3 years on backed up projects. So going into this budget season, we budgeted $1.5 million to look at lining approximately 26,000 feet of pipe, in addition to about 16 sanitary manholes. And those manholes are structurally intact, but they have enough, a little bit of joint movement that they do allow infiltration. So the best alternative there, cost effective, is we can line them with structures with it, and lining them will eliminate that infiltration. So we wanted to tackle some of those while we're doing this lining project. So the 2 bids that we did get for that were from Air Construction in Peoria and In Situ Form Technologies out of Chesterfield, Missouri. Our previous projects, we have worked with both those contractors, more so Air Construction out of Peoria, simply because they're the closest. Air Construction bid came in at $1,235,930.60. In Situ Form Technologies came in at $1,551,171.10. Both companies said it would be mid to late summer before they could begin this project due to all the other ones that have elapsed for us. So what I come to you tonight is your consideration for accepting Air Construction's bid at $1,235,930.60. In conjunction with this lining project, we are looking at replacing a few more manholes that will allow us to line the pipe. We did discuss with both these contractors, should we move forward with that? We want to push them back to mid to late summer regardless, just to knock out a couple of repairs out there so we're ready for them to come in. So again, both of them will be ready late summer, which is about 10 weeks ready for them as well. So I would ask that we move forward with that construction.
Okay, Jay. Motion by Brian, second by Frank Rodet.
I got a question. You said mid to late, Donald, do it. Mid to late summer before start date?
Before the actual lining, they'll come in and begin the root cutting and cleaning and preparation, but before they actually start installing the sleeves, and it'll be probably mid to late summer, probably July, August.
What's their completion date?
We gave them till the end of the year, simply because of all the bookings and the jobs that they're already committed to, that we assumed would help our pricing, giving them a little more amount of time to complete the project. There were 7 contractors that picked up bid packets that couldn't bid because they were so far out already in previous jobs. So we felt giving them that extra time would be advantageous to competitive bid.
Air's done a lot of lining in this town.
Right, Air has done the majority of lining, and we have had nothing but great success with them. They went above and beyond many times when we come across some unforeseen issues. Again, great people to work with, they know all our staff, we know them, so it's a very, very good established relationship with their construction.
Thanks, Jake. We have a motion by Brian, a second by Frank, to approve the bid from Hare Construction. Roll call, please.
Lee,
Yes.
Hicks, Bradshaw,
Yes.
Gaber,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Jovidan.
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Thanks, Jake. Second item on the agenda is bridge maintenance. Brian's not here. Will Chris, can you touch on that?
Brian may have mentioned this during the infrastructure budget meeting, but we are required by that to have our bridges inspected periodically. And we have 2 bridges that are going to need some maintenance. In order to go out for bid for that, we need to have engineering work done on the 2 bridges so we can go out to bid. The Turtle Creek Bridge, which is a bridge that goes into Turtle Creek subdivision, needs a new waterproofing membrane underneath the bridge structure, grouting of channels between the precast beams and crack sealing, and then hot mix replacement of the pavement. The second bridge is on Icer Island, which is going out Forage Park Road. The west bridge needs grouting at the abutment piles. As I mentioned, in order to facilitate the work, engineering design work needs to be done, and we utilize Farnsworth Group for that, with the cost, estimated engineering cost of $45,000 for the Turtle Creek Bridge, and $30,000 for the Icer Island Bridge. So Brian would like to go ahead and send that work over to them so they can get started on that with plans of having the work done yet this year. So we need approval to do so.
Any questions for Chris? If not, then we need a motion to put this out to farm work or engineering work.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mike, second by Jamie. Roll call, please.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Gaber,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Jovidan,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hicks.
Thank you. Moving on to mayor's comments. Things are progressing nicely all around town, but Bob will talk about the committee of the whole meeting coming up Thursday. I want to mention that we did have a new place open up in town, Lola's Restaurant, this past week, and quite nice on Ladd Street. And then there's a couple of places downtown where people are moving their shops into, so that's always good to see activity. I see a lot of activity, Jake, out at by the golf course with the sewer going in.
Yeah, it's definitely a little nutty messy.
But I saw golfers out there too, so they can get around anything. That's all I have tonight. Council comments. We miss Bill Callis sometimes, don't we? Okay. All right. City, you've talked a lot, but Bob, you got anything else?
Yeah, well, you mentioned the committee of the whole this Thursday, 6 o'clock. And then we inadvertently didn't get the agenda posted, was the reason for the delay, which is going to require a 10-minute council meeting the week of the 28th to approve the budget. So we'll work on that timing Thursday night.
Public comments. Already got it. Okay. We do have need for executive session for collective negotiation matters, land acquisition, and personnel. So we will have to have a motion to go to executive session. So moved by Brian, seconded by John Willett. Roll call, please.
Barr,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hicks. Tom? Yes, no? Jaber?
Yes.
Willard?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're always traveling from your zone.
Yeah.
It takes-
Takes a while.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did, Bradshaw, sorry.
There's about 3 minutes to go to the budget.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Where did it sound so